If you're driving and run out of gas, what do you do? Of course, Nish chooses to drive to the gas station, but the deserted station appeared abandoned for years. Luckily, Nish had a solar-powered charger in her car's trunk. At that moment, she noticed a striking sign on the opposite side of a black building, reading Black Museum. In such desolate surroundings, why was there a museum? Driven by curiosity, Nish decided to explore and find out. Welcome back, LookRecap. Today, I'm going to recap the 6th episode of the 4th season of Black Mirror, titled Black Museum. Nish found the doors and windows tightly shut, yet it was written that it would open at 11. Checking her watch, she realized it wasn't time yet. As she looked around, she noticed a car parked nearby. When 11 o'clock arrived, a stylishly dressed man opened the door. He had expected more visitors today but was surprised to see only one girl. The man introduced himself as the museum curator. He cautioned Nish that if she was faint-hearted, she should not enter his museum. This only fueled Nish's curiosity about what frightening things might be inside. At the curator's request, Nish underwent a simple security check. Once inside, she saw some simple wax figure props that didn't seem out of the ordinary. What followed were displays of various criminal items, each seemingly with its own real story. Nish was intrigued by a mannequin wearing what looked like a wig, and the story officially began. In a hospital in New York, there was a scientific laboratory where the curator used to work. Dr. Dawson, working there, was attempting to save a patient's life. As the patient had unknowingly taken other drugs before, the doses conflicted, leading to the patient's demise. Because he couldn't perceive the patient's symptoms. At this point, the curator approached the doctor. He might be able to help solve this problem. He brought Dawson to their neurotechnology research lab. Their latest development was a device capable of sensing another organism's nervous system. Simply put, as long as the other person wore the device, the recipient could experience any sensation the other person felt. The curator informed Dawson that with this receiver, he could not only empathize with the patient but also wouldn't harm his own body. Dawson seized this opportunity. Under the curator's arrangement, the device was successfully implanted into his brain's nervous system, and the tests were highly successful. When the tester's hand was pricked, Dawson could feel the same pain. With this technology, Dawson began to excel in diagnosing patients' conditions. He endured various patients' painful symptoms, saving many lives with his newfound perception. Even after work, life became doubly joyful for him. However, one day, a sudden emergency involving a senator was brought to the hospital, and Dawson was called upon to help. But at this point, Dawson became exceptionally distressed. Despite having the device, Dawson was at a loss, unable to decipher the symptoms. Until the data from the device stops, the senator dies, and Dawson loses consciousness completely. The hospital's final analysis revealed poisoning. However, Dawson had experienced what it feels like to be on the brink of death. When he woke up, he underwent a full body checkup and surprisingly was unharmed. From that point on, Dawson began to experience subtle changes with pain. He felt an indescribable satisfaction when experiencing his patient's pain. He became addicted to pain, and in the absence of patience, he grew restless. Dawson spent entire days at the hospital eagerly awaiting a patient's arrival. When finally one was brought in, he reacted frantically, sensing it was a heart attack. However, he hesitated to speak up, indulging in the sensation. Others noticed this abnormality and rushed to pull Dawson away. He appeared to be struggling at this point. Seeking the curator, he wanted to rid himself of this dreadful instrument. However, the owner explained they were involved in other projects and needed time before assisting him in removing the device. Left alone at home to recuperate, Dawson, free from pain, grew increasingly restless. Accidentally breaking a glass, he had a bold idea. Picking up the shards, he deliberately pricked his finger, finding a slight sense of satisfaction, fueling his increasing madness. He started self-harming using various tools. Despite being a doctor, Dawson managed to avoid fatal injuries, but it wasn't enough to satisfy his desires. One dark night, Dawson encountered a homeless man on the street. Pulling out a stun gun from his pocket, he subdued the man and attached the instrument to him. Then, taking out an electric drill, he began to harm the homeless man, deriving an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. At that moment, a police car happened to pass by. Dawson, caught between the fear and pleasure of death, became completely incapacitated after being taken to the hospital. The curator, finishing the story, grew thirsty due to the malfunctioning air conditioner in the hot weather. A kind girl hurriedly handed him a bottle of water. What he proceeded to tell afterward was the true story of a terrifying toy monkey. The woman was taking photos with her family when, in the next moment, an unimaginable tragedy struck. Kelly, struck by a terrible misfortune, became a vegetable. Thus, her husband Jack spent several years by her side, yet she remained unresponsive. Until one day, the curator found Jack and informed him about a project they were researching that could resolve his dilemma. They were exploring how to extract a person's consciousness from the brain in a digitized form and then place it into another host. With humans only using 10% of their brain's capacity, the remaining 90% is blank. By placing another person's consciousness into this 90%, they could exist in the form of consciousness within another brain, freeing his wife from this useless shell. Eventually, Jack agreed to this proposal, and a consciousness compression device successfully extracted Kelly's consciousness. They transferred the consciousness into Jack's brain. Then, a miraculous scene unfolded. Kelly appeared in a void-like space, seated in a chair. She awakened and, through Jack's perspective, could see the outside world. The curator conducted a test using an apple, and Kelly described what she saw. Jack couldn't believe he was hearing his wife's voice in his mind. The curator instructed Jack to hold the apple, and Kelly's consciousness also experienced the sense of touch. Jack quickly took a bite, and the taste of the apple entered Kelly's consciousness. Jack could hardly believe that moment. When he embraced their child, Kelly's consciousness finally felt the long-awaited reunion. The experiment was a tremendous success, and everyone believed everything would progress in a positive direction. Life often gets tested by mundane trivialities. The two individuals' consciousness gradually began to diverge, from the speed at which they read to certain daily habits, such as not washing hands after using the restroom, which became hard for Kelly to accept. From watching crime shows in front of the children to getting angry at their mischief, Jack's various behaviors faced criticism from his wife Kelly, leading Jack to find it increasingly difficult to bear. In retaliation, Jack grabbed the food Kelly disliked the most from the fridge and ate it voraciously. Their conflicts deepened further. In despair, Jack sought out the curator and expressed his troubles. In a bid to resolve their family discord, the curator decided to create a program for Jack. By simply using his phone, he could deactivate Kelly's consciousness at any time. While in the elevator, Jack encountered an attractive woman and just stole a glance, instantly drawing criticism from his wife Kelly. Even when Jack had a physiological reaction, Kelly was aware of it. This led to another heated argument, and Jack reluctantly used the phone program to deactivate Kelly's consciousness. When Kelly woke up, she found that weeks had passed, unable to comprehend Jack's actions. For the sake of their child, the two reached an agreement. Apart from weekends, Kelly would remain deactivated. However, this idyllic arrangement didn't last long. The appearance of a woman named Emily completely changed everything. Jack quickly developed a fondness for Emily. Seeing them out playing with their child made Kelly feel like a third wheel, a feeling she couldn't bear. In desperation, Jack sought out the curator again. Faced with this dilemma, the curator suggested that they could erase consciousness. But Jack found this unethical and disagreed. He couldn't bear to let his child lose her mother. The curator then offered another solution. He produced a toy monkey with a perception receiver that could store Kelly's consciousness. The toy's eyes acted as a camera, enabling Kelly's consciousness to see the outside world. Under Emily's persuasion, Jack reluctantly agreed to this plan. When Kelly woke up, she found herself stored within a toy monkey, unable to convey her voice. The toy monkey had rudimentary communication settings, displaying only happy and sad expressions, plunging Kelly into complete despair. The toy monkey emitted incessant noise, and soon, Kelly faced threats from Emily. Kelly could only watch helplessly as this woman stripped away everything from her, leaving her powerless. Soon after, the transfer of human consciousness into restricted forms was deemed illegal. What's even more terrifying was that Kelly remained trapped inside the toy monkey. Maliciously deleting someone else's consciousness was illegal, meaning Kelly's consciousness was forever confined within it. In this dark museum, there's a standout exhibit, the appearance of a virtual human figure. Not long ago, the curator found a death row convict in prison and planned to purchase his consciousness post-execution as a deal, offering a commission to his family. The convict agreed to this arrangement. After obtaining the man's consciousness, the curator used technology to load it into a virtual image. With the aid of holographic projection, the conscious virtual figure appeared in the prison cell. Confused, the convict sat back on the electric chair before understanding the situation. as the curator pressed a button. What followed was the process of him being electrocuted once again. To protect consciousness, the curator set a safety limit of 10 seconds for the electric shocks, the optimal duration. All of this stemmed from a certain tech company's closure. To make ends meet, the curator established this museum, with the convict's consciousness becoming the attraction for visitors. Here, people release their emotions, deriving their joy from others' pain. Each shocking scene of the convict is even turned into a dynamic souvenir gifted to the tourists. Unmoved by the suffering, the curator, in the midst of excitedly explaining to Nish, suddenly began to feel extremely uncomfortable. His face reddened, seemingly on the brink of suffocation. Nish calmly watched the curator. Unknown to him, she was the daughter of the convict. She exposed the museum's dark reality. On the other hand, it turned out the man was framed with such charges. Later, due to protests from the man's wife and the issue escalating online, garnering support from some netizens, it directly resulted in a decline in the curator's number of visitors. After losing most of the visitors, only those who sought release remained. Repeatedly, these individuals arrived to ruthlessly electrocute Nish's father. To meet these individuals' excessive demands, the curator increased the electric shock duration to the limit of 15 seconds, for more compensation. Eventually, the man's consciousness was directly electrocuted into a vegetative state, until one day, his wife came here and found him. Witnessing her husband's dire state shattered her completely. Upon returning home, unable to cope, the man's wife chose to end her life. Nish arrived here purely for revenge, lacing the bottle of water the curator drank with a slow-acting poison. After the truth came to light, Nish produced a consciousness extractor, intending to retaliate against the curator in a similar manner. After the curator's demise, Nish uploaded his consciousness to the data end. Upon waking up, the curator found himself in a void world, while Nish also developed a method to transfer consciousness into a virtual body. The curator's consciousness was placed into the virtual body of the man, with Nish removing the electric shock time restriction. As the body disappeared, the curator was also transformed into a dynamic expression. The air conditioning malfunction occurred due to Nish's intrusion. Having completed her revenge plan, Nish prepared to leave with the toy monkey. Nish's mother's consciousness was also transferred into her brain. Coexisting, the dark museum ceased to exist. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like. It really helps the channel. Thank you for watching.